Welcome back to the channel. My name is T Cypher. Today we're going to continue looking at putting together the QueenBee upgrade for my work bee. Slightly different angle today. I'm trying different things just to try and give you a better picture of what's going on. I think in the background you can just see the edge of my actual work bee. So where to start? Just to let you know, I didn't really mention it before in the previous one. The guys at CNC Pro, if I remember the name correctly, it's like CNC 3D. Communications from them has been brilliant from the start. I've been talking to them probably for a month and well, 2 months actually prior to making the order, just to try and understand the quirks of this system, the pros and cons. And there are a few minor cons in that you're going to lose a little bit of your width of cut due to the way the plates are mounted, about 5 centimeters off the top of my head, which is nothing too bad. That's about 2 inches roughly, give or take. I also had feedback from my previous video regarding these plates themselves. It turns out my plates have actually come from 2 different versions. There's been 3 versions of this assembly so far, and they've moved into version 3. It looks like I've probably got a version 2 plates, which I assume is this plate with the not so great finishing on here, and version 3 plates, which is the plate here with the improved linishing process here. Just so you know, linishing is a final stage process you can do with manufacturing, where it's basically it's effectively a polishing finish, which makes it look a lot better. There are some minor differences to these 2 plates, mainly these holes here where you mount the dowel rings of the nut blocks. I do apologise about the flashing. My light is just beginning to run low on power. It will stop in a second. So I believe this one, the actual dowel rings can be moved a slightly bit further out, but the mounting positions for the X-axis carriage and the linear bearings seem to be aligned fine. They've promised me and said that going forward they will actually put steps in to ensure that this doesn't happen again. So if you receive the new set, I imagine you'll receive 2 which are finished nicely like this one, and they should be all aligned. Yeah, but I would say if you want to ask, if you have any questions, they're more than open for discussions via. I've been using Facebook Messenger in all honesty, because I've made contact with them through the WorkBee group, which is on Facebook. A very good group of people who can more than willing to help people with suggestions and advice on whatever variant of WorkBee you've got. It'd be a nozzle nest or Bulkman or bought all the bits from China. There's people out there who seem to be more than happy to help. So yeah, right, so this one, in this video itself, what we're going to do, we're going to look at putting the linear rails on the C-beam. I'm just going to put these out of the way. Now for that we're going to need certain tools, and I'm going to start by just doing the C-beam. We're going to do today is the HGH15, which is the bigger bearing blocks, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you the process for doing it on one rail, and then, because it is the same for every single rail. Things we're going to need T-nuts. I've decided to go with these type here, the insert type. You can use the type where you put them onto the rail, into the rail post and twist them 90 degrees, but I prefer these, as I can guarantee once they're in, they are aligned. They're not going to misalign, so there'll be positive engagement. And these are M4s, and you're going to need a number appropriate for the rail quantity you've got. Like I've said, their webpage does list the quantities involved. As I said, I've got a 750 by 1000, which needs 60 M4 T-nuts, and you're also going to need some M4 by 14s. These are actually 12s I've got in my hand. The M4 by 14s are due to arrive from Royal Mail 3 days ago, so hopefully they'll be arriving very shortly. And again, you're going to need the same quantity again. Along with this, you're going to need your rails themselves. So I've got here the meter rail along with the C-beam for it. You're also going to need some Allen keys or Allen wrenches, depending on where you refer to it. I'm also going to make use of a electric screwdriver with the appropriate Allen key in it, just because it's just to speed things up. You're going to need also some way of aligning your rails, and I've knocked up these parts here, and I will share the drawings for them using my QueenBee. And since we've got a QueenBee already, and you don't necessarily have a 3D printer, and we're going to use QueenBee manufactured parts to align our rails on the C-beam. And I'm also going to make use of a little Sharpie, a little permanent marker. You could probably get away with pencil. And then the final item we're probably going to need is some sort of measuring device. Just grabbing my vernier caliper, very accurate. Well, it's a cheap one, so it's not as great as some are, but accurate enough for what we're going to do. And yeah, I will be using some other tools later on, but that's more of a, just to me to prove some points. So if we make a start on this. Okay, so I have my bits. I've just rotated them just so hopefully you've got a better view of what I'm doing. It's probably not perfect, but it's probably good enough. Okay, so for starters, because I'm going to be using these T-nuts here, when we place the rails on, it's going to be, we could in theory put the T-nuts on the rail and then try and slide it all in, which you could do that way and it might well work, but in my experience, once you get more than a couple in to something, when you start to try and slide in the rest, they start to jam up and it just becomes really awkward. So what I'm going to do, and I will say I've given this rail a clean down with a cloth just to, I mean, it's not as messy. I'm going to start by getting an alignment of the rail against the C-beam. Now the rail itself should be cut about 5mm shorter than the C-beam involved. So this should be 5mm if I measure up here, which, yep, it is. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to centralize it so I have the same distance either side, and hopefully this will make sense once I get to that assembly. So I'm going to move it so it's about 2.5mm either side. Okay, and now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my Sharpie. I'm just going to put little marks on the C-beam that line up with the holes. And this is really, I'm sorry if my head is in shot, I'll try and move my head a little bit to give you a clear view of what I'm doing. And this, you could do this different ways, but I think this makes sense for ensuring we have alignment of our T-nuts to the rail. That means when we try and put the screws in, we can actually find the T-nuts and don't end up having to mess around, moving them around, putting it apart, taking it apart, putting it back together again, etc. So I'm just running up, putting little marks just as an alignment point for the center. And it doesn't need to be spot on to like the 0.5mm or anything like that, because as long as we've got enough alignment that we can expose some of the hole through the top holes, we can then use a small screwdriver, or probably I use the shank of a small Allen wrench to align the parts up. So moving that out of the way, we can see I've got my array of holes, and just out of interest, these are actually at seems to be 60mm spacing off the top of my head. Oh, and talking of spacing, I did mention about the holes on the plates last time. They're actually clearance holes, so they're not as tight fitting as on the QueenBee, so don't be surprised at that. So I'm going to take my T-nuts, and I'm going to just start inserting them in. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 into here. So that's one already. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So that should be good. So I'm just going to bang them all into here. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Although if not, I'm sure it makes perfect sense what I'm doing. And like I said, I will apologise for the camera angle. I've sort of had to bodge together something to give an overhead picture.
Yeah.
That one went on the floor. So there we have them all installed initially, and now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a smallish Allen key, bench, whichever way it's described in your country of choice, and I'm going to start moving the set down so they align approximately with those marks I've put in previously. And as I put in 1, 2 view, that one's there, so insert that one there. Okay, so what this means is when I place this on top of here, we'll just correct that one there, it's just a little bit too far up I think, just having a little more detail check. When I place this on top of here, I should be able to look down and you'll see at least some of all the holes. Which I can. So what this means is when I come to put the screws in, they'll align fine. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my little alignment blocks and I'm going to push them into place. Okay, this is a tight fit, so hopefully it'll all fit together. Put one up the other end, maximising the spacing. Okay, and I've got a couple of extras. In all honesty, I mucked up my first attempt at these and made the space between them too small, so it's given me a couple of extras which I can use to help confirm the alignment. Okay, so with that done, what I can then do is again take my Allen wrench. Actually, what I'll do first, I'll just make sure the distance is about the same both sides. It's 1.9 that end. Yeah, about the same on the other end, so it's actually about 4, this one's about 4 millimeters shorter than the entire rail length. I'm going to take my Allen wrench and I'm just going to go through each hole, pulling the T-nuts into correct alignment. And I again apologise, my head was probably just in the picture, but hopefully you're an engineer of some form and you've got a clue for what I mean. And I'm not saying this is the perfect way of doing it, this is just the way I'm doing it to try and make sure I don't have any silly mistakes. Excellent. So the next step we're going to do is I'm going to pause this video for a moment, wait for the screws to show up, and then we'll get into putting them in. Okay, welcome back. It's 24 hours later, the screws finally arrived from Royal Mail. I've pre-assembled a lot of it because to put some of the battery on my camera ran out. So I've been using the technique I described yesterday to assemble it, and basically I'm down to the final jig. One thing I did notice on the MGM15 rails is actually the two different lengths, and one is actually almost too long. Luckily it's just short enough. I you probably won't be able to see in the camera, so I won't bother showing you, but I've used my little jigs. It makes it nice and square, and from what I can tell from the measuring equipment I've got, they run parallel. So I finally just got to do this final one up. So these little M3s were actually quite a bit more awkward than the M4s, because the T nuts were not quite as well machined, may I say. No, the lead into the threads weren't quite as good, so some of them didn't want to bite. Interestingly, also, it turned out there was actually a M3 by 10, not an MG by. Basically, in the M6 R4s, I had a 12 instead of a 14 in the pack, and that confused me for a bit because it didn't want to fit. So yeah, I basically now just putting together the final piece, and I'll just demonstrate and talk to you about the other parts. I just realised I might be upside down in all these videos, but yeah, not much I can do about that, and maybe able to do something in post. So yeah, just tightening it up. I'm just doing it by hand. I don't want to risk using a power tool. Meant to be these cap heads are a lot better, have a lot better form than the low profiles that you get with the work BS standard. So they're actually probably better at taking power tools than they are. But with these, specifically with these small ones, it actually is possible to put too much force to actually snap this sort of size screw bolt. I've done it in the past, so I'll just take it nice and easy, going around, then tighten them all up initially, and I'm going to get this off. You can see how tight a fit that is. That's a bit worrying. There's actually movement going on there, so I have to tighten it down again and tighten up again. That's a bit worrying. Thought I was down enough. Bit of persuasion. Check these out. Okay, I'm just going to go through and tighten up further before I. That's a bit surprising. I actually begin to worry if these M3x12s might be a little bit long, but I'll just tighten them all up a lot more. Bit of light down there, see what's going on inside. Might be bottoming out, but if it is, it'll just go into the metal work below. Yeah, I would say that these are actually too long. I would say that these are M3x12s, which, and I'm just double checking the notes, is what is recommended. I would say you might almost be better off with M3x10s for this particular step, as I do appear to be going into the aluminium underneath. Like I said, the aluminium would just deform around it. I was, yeah, it's definitely digging into the alley down there, which is, oh god, not ideal at all. I can see this one's definitely not. Yeah, okay, be aware, you might need smaller bolts. I'm going to switch to using a cheat mold, I think, because it'll dry them in a little bit better. And if I strip them, that's just something I'll have to deal with, I think. I'm going to keep with the drivers. These are Imperial fittings, so I don't necessarily want to be using those. Definitely need to get myself a metric set of those. Okay, well, I'm just going to have to keep working these in, and yeah. Sorry, CNC 3D, that's something you're going to have to look up updating in your information package. I'm definitely digging into the alley here underneath. Like I said, it's probably not the end of the world, but oh, I might be even strip that out now. I don't know. I like how that's turning. I suspect that's actually stripped the T-nut. Yeah, I'll replace that T-nut with another one. Hopefully this isn't going to be a problem through the length, otherwise it is a problem. Got a fresh screw as well, just in case. Typical. I haven't had any problems now. As soon as I go to camera, I have a problem. But I think you get the idea. What I'll do, I'll just show you, talk you through the other rails. I will go back and sort that out off video. So the other rails we've got, this is my X-axis rail. We can see the two rails on it, nicely tightly bolted down. Then I have the Y-axis, two of these, and you can see we've only got the rail on one side and these, so these are working in the Y-axis and on my 750s. That will do it for this video. Hope it was informative. The next video I'm going to get that sorted. We're going to start looking at assembling the Z-axis together and the mysteries of that. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.